The cargo bay doors of the Terran survey vessel, Meridian's Hope, hissed open, and Captain Sarah Chen stepped onto the cracked surface of Kepler 442b with her boots crunching against crystalline sand. The planet had been marked as uninhabited, a dead world with breathable atmosphere but no complex life. The survey was supposed to be routine, just another geological study before the colony ships arrived in 3 years. She had been wrong about the uninhabited part. Sarah's scanner had picked up heat signatures 2 kilometers east, clustered in what looked like a shallow canyon. Her crew wanted to ignore it, to finish the mineral surveys and leave. After all, the Galactic Council had made it clear that humans were still probationary members, still watched with suspicion after the war with the Virex Collective had ended badly for everyone involved. Getting tangled up with unknown life forms would mean paperwork, delays, and possible censure. But Sarah had always been the type to investigate strange signals, which was both her greatest strength and her most persistent flaw. The canyon opened up before her like a wound in the planet's surface, all jagged rocks and shadows that seemed to move in the fading light of the system's orange dwarf star. She raised her rifle, more out of habit than fear, and descended carefully down the rocky slope. Her helmet's display showed atmospheric readings holding steady, temperature dropping as the sun set behind distant mountains that looked like broken teeth against the horizon. That was when she heard the sound. Low, mournful, carrying across the stillness with an aching quality that made her chest tighten. It was not mechanical. It was alive, and it was suffering. Sarah rounded a boulder the size of a transport shuttle and stopped dead in her tracks. They looked like wolves, if wolves had been designed by an alien artist who understood the concept but had never actually seen one. 6 creatures lay scattered across the canyon floor, their bodies covered in fur that shimmered between deep blue and silver depending on how the light hit it. They were massive, each one easily 3 meters long from nose to tail, with 4 legs that ended in paws equipped with retractable claws like a cat's. Their heads were lupine but broader, with 4 eyes arranged in pairs and ears that swiveled independently like satellite dishes. 5 of them were dead. The 6th was dying. The creature's breathing came in ragged gasps, and a dark fluid that might have been blood pooled beneath its body. One of its back legs was bent at an impossible angle, and burns covered most of its right flank. The other bodies showed similar injuries, and Sarah's analytical mind immediately recognized the pattern. Energy weapons, military grade. Someone had hunted these creatures and left them here to die. The surviving wolf's 4 eyes tracked her movement as she approached, and it tried to drag itself away, leaving a trail in the sand. The sound it made was somewhere between a whimper and a growl, afraid but trying to maintain dignity in its final moments. Sarah's comm crackled. "Captain, we've got incoming." It was Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, her second in command, and he sounded tense. 3 ships just dropped out of FTL. They're broadcasting Galactic Council authority codes. Looks like a hunting party returning. Her jaw clenched. Time to intercept? 20 minutes, maybe less if they burn hard. Sarah looked down at the dying alien wolf. Its eyes met hers, and she saw something there that transcended species. Pain, yes, but also awareness. Intelligence. This was not some mindless beast. This was a person in a different form, and someone had murdered its family for sport. The smart thing would be to leave. The Council had laws about interference with indigenous species, but they also had unwritten rules about who those laws actually protected. Humans were still outsiders in the galactic community, still viewed as violent primitives who had barely clawed their way to the stars. Getting caught helping creatures that some council race had decided to hunt would mean consequences Sarah could not afford. But looking into those 4 eyes, watching the creature's labored breathing, and seeing the bodies of what might have been its pack, its family, scattered around like discarded toys, Sarah felt something ignite in her chest. It was the same feeling that had made her join the Survey Corps instead of taking a safe job on Mars. The same stubborn refusal to accept injustice just because it was convenient. "Rodriguez, prep the medical bay," she said, holstering her rifle and kneeling beside the creature. "We're bringing a passenger aboard." "Captain, the council ships—" "I heard you the first time, Lieutenant. Med bay, now." The alien wolf's eyes widened as Sarah pulled out her emergency medical kit. A compact unit designed for human injuries, but adaptable enough for most carbon-based life forms. The creature did not struggle as she pressed a trauma seal against its burned flank, did not fight when she injected broad-spectrum pain medication into its shoulder. It watched her with an intensity that was almost unnerving, as if trying to understand why this strange being in the armored suit was helping instead of finishing what the hunters had started. "I'm going to lift you now," Sarah said, knowing the creature could not understand her words, but hoping her tone conveyed intent. "This is going to hurt, but I need to get you to my ship. Can you trust me for just a few minutes?" The wolf made a soft huffing sound, and its body relaxed slightly. Sarah triggered her suit's exoskeleton supports and lifted the creature as carefully as she could, feeling its weight strain against the servos. It was heavy, probably close to 400 kilograms of muscle and bone, but the suit held. She began the climb back up the canyon wall, moving as quickly as caution allowed. The wolf's breathing changed, becoming more labored, and Sarah felt panic flutter in her stomach. Too slow, and the creature would die before she reached the ship. Too fast, and she might drop it or worsen its injuries on the rocky terrain. She found a rhythm, a careful balance between speed and stability, and focused on putting one boot in front of the other. Her helmet display showed the council ships entering orbit, their trajectories clearly aiming for the landing zone where the Meridian's Hope sat waiting. Sarah's crew would be scrambling now, running pre-flight checks and powering up the engines. They would wait for her because that was the kind of loyalty she had earned over 3 years of serving together, but she could feel their anxiety through the calm silence. The canyon rim appeared ahead, and Sarah hauled herself and her burden over the edge with a grunt of effort. The landing pad was visible now, and she could see her ship's loading ramp already lowered, emergency lights flashing in the gathering darkness. 200 meters. She could make that. The alien wolf stirred in her arms, and one of its paws brushed against her helmet. The gesture was gentle, almost deliberate, and Sarah felt her throat tighten with emotion. The creature was thanking her, or perhaps just acknowledging that it understood what she was trying to do. "Almost there," Sarah whispered. "Just hang on a little longer." She reached the ramp as the council ships began their descent, 3 sleek vessels painted in the authorities' white and gold livery. They were smaller than her survey ship but faster, built for pursuit rather than exploration. Sarah could see weapons pods slung under their wings, and her blood ran cold. These were not scientists or diplomats. These were hunters who had the government's blessing to kill. The ramp sealed behind her, and Sarah lowered the wolf onto the medical bay's examination table, her muscles screaming in relief. The ship's medical AI immediately began scanning the creature, holographic displays showing internal damage that made Sarah wince. Broken bones, internal bleeding, severe burns, possible organ damage. The wolf should have been dead already. But something in its biology was keeping it alive through sheer stubborn will. "Rodriguez, get us out of here," Sarah ordered, stripping off her helmet and moving to the medical console. "Best possible speed." "Captain, they're hailing us, demanding we stand down for inspection." Sarah's hands flew across the console, programming the medical AI to start treatment protocols designed for unknown species. The machine was sophisticated, capable of analyzing alien biochemistry and adapting treatment in real time, but it needed data it did not have. She was flying blind, making educated guesses based on terrestrial biology and hoping the similarities were close enough. The ship shuddered as the engines fired, lifting them off the planet's surface. Through the medical bay's viewport, Sarah could see the Council ships altering course to intercept, their weapons pods swiveling to track the Meridian's Hope. "They're powering weapons," Rodriguez reported, his voice tight. "Captain, they will fire on us if we run." Sarah looked down at the wolf on the table. The medical AI had stabilized its breathing and was knitting the broken bone back together with a biofoam matrix, but the creature was still critical. Its 4 eyes were closed now, body relaxed under the influence of pain medication, trusting her to save it when everything else in the universe had decided it should die. "Hail them back," Sarah said quietly. "Put me through." The view screen flickered to life, showing a Vorath commander, all scales and cold reptilian eyes. The Vorath were one of the Council's founding species, ancient and powerful, and they looked at humans the way humans might look at particularly clever rats. "Human vessel," the Vorath said, its voice translated by the comm system into flat, emotionless English. "You are harboring stolen property. Surrender it immediately or face consequences." "Stolen property?" Sarah kept her voice level, professional. "Commander, I found a wounded creature dying in a canyon. Since when is providing medical aid to an indigenous species considered theft?" The Vorath's eyes narrowed. "The Kepler 442b lupines are registered game animals under Council Charter 7743. They are not indigenous. They are imported stock for recreational hunting, and that specimen belongs to the merchant prince Zelkoth of Vorath Prime. You will return it at once." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Game animals, imported stock. They had brought these intelligent creatures here just to hunt them, and they had the Council's permission to do it. "No," Sarah said simply. The Vorath commander's head tilted in what might have been surprise. "Explain your refusal, human. That creature on my medical table is a sentient being, not property. It's intelligent, self-aware, and capable of complex emotion. Hunting it for sport is murder, and I will not be complicit in murder. Not today, not ever." "You risk your ship and crew for an animal?" Sarah looked at the wolf, at its peaceful face as the medical AI worked to save its life. "Yes, I do." The connection cut off, and Rodriguez's voice came through immediately. "Captain, they're charging weapons. Orders?" Sarah felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. 3 Council ships against 1 survey vessel. Her crew could die because of her decision. The smart move would be to surrender the wolf, to apologize and claim ignorance, to survive and fight another day through proper diplomatic channels. But Sarah had grown up on stories of people who made hard choices, who stood up when it mattered, even when the odds were impossible. Her grandmother had told her about civil rights protesters facing down fire hoses, about aid workers staying in war zones when everyone else fled, about ordinary people who became heroes simply by refusing to look away from suffering. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah ordered. "And get me a direct line to Earth Command. If we are going to start a diplomatic incident, we might as well make it a big one." The Meridian's Hope banked hard as energy bolts lit up the space around them, shields flaring blue as they absorbed impacts. The ship was not built for combat, but it was fast and maneuverable, and Rodriguez was an excellent pilot. They danced between the Council ships, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot away at angles the heavier vessels could not match. Behind Sarah, the alien wolf's eyes opened, and it watched her with an expression that might have been gratitude or might have been simple recognition that she had chosen its life over safety. The medical AI chimed, indicating successful stabilization of vital signs. The creature would live if they could keep it alive long enough to escape. The comm crackled with a new voice, human from Earth Command. "This is Admiral Zhang. Captain Chen, please tell me you have not just attacked 3 Galactic Council vessels." "No, sir," Sarah said, gripping the edge of the medical console as the ship shook from another impact. "They attacked us, after demanding I surrender an intelligent being to be murdered for sport." There was a long pause, and Sarah could almost hear the Admiral's internal struggle. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. "Well then, Captain, I suppose we better make sure you survive long enough to tell that story to the Council ourselves. Hold position. Reinforcements are en route." The wolf on the table made a soft sound, somewhere between a growl and a purr, and Sarah felt hope bloom in her chest. Maybe humans were still outsiders in the galactic community. Maybe they were still viewed with suspicion and distrust. But perhaps, just perhaps, that meant they could do things the established powers had forgotten. Could show mercy where ancient species saw only property and profit. As the first wave of human warships dropped out of FTL, painting the Council vessels with targeting locks that made them back off immediately, Sarah reached out and gently touched the wolf's head. Its fur was impossibly soft, and it leaned into her hand with obvious contentment. "You're safe now," she whispered. "I promise." The wolf's 4 eyes met hers, and in that moment, Sarah knew with absolute certainty that she had made the right choice. Whatever consequences came next, whatever diplomatic storms this unleashed, she would face them knowing she had chosen compassion over convenience, courage over cowardice. It was, she thought, the most human thing she had ever done.